Bradford's bid to repeal Section 59 of the Crimes Act, the reasonable force defence for physically punishing children, is back before Parliament on Wednesday. Protesters are getting ready to descend on Wellington in great numbers, we're told. Fierce lobbying is taking place. Family First, to oppose Sue Bradford's move, have brought out a US academic who's written extensively in favour of the limited and moderate use of corporal punishment. He's an associate professor of psychology at the University of Oklahoma, Dr. Robert Lazalery. Say your name for me, look.
Lazalery.
Lazalery, thank you.
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma is our main rival.
Is it right? Okay, I'll get that right. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Cindy Kiro, Commissioner for Children, welcome. It's great to have you both here. What's your take on when it's appropriate to discipline children physically?
Well, I've been doing research on this for 28 years and to try to resolve some of these kinds of issues. And it depends on how it's used, just like every other discipline tactic. So the kind of smacking we found that's effective is what I'd call backup smacking, that's used to back up milder discipline tactics so that things like timeout can be effective even for the most defiant 2 to 6-year-olds, for example.
You talk about it being effective.
Yeah.
Who's it effective on?
It's in the best studies, it's been proven to be effective for the most defiant 2 to 6-year-olds that are on the way to becoming delinquents if parents can't regain control over them.
What about moderately defiant kids? Because there seems to be some inference that it increases their bad behaviour if they're not very naughty children.
I don't think that's the case. There is no sound research
against
non-abusive smacking.
Andrew Grogan-Kaler would disagree with you, wouldn't he?
Who was that?
Andrew Grogan-Kaler, the Grogan-Kaler study. 94, 96 and 98, the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth, and said that not very naughty kids who are smacked become naughtier.
Well, I've written to him and I've asked him to test that for alternatives, because I found in that same data set that if you look at the effects of alternative discipline tactics that parents use instead, the effects look just as detrimental. And the problem is that whatever you use, it selects kids. Any kind of discipline tactic is selected more for kids that misbehave more. And so it's the child misbehavior that predicts a lot of detrimental outcomes. Okay. Dr.
Cindy Kiro, if we're talking about warning a child, giving them time out, and then as a last resort giving them a light smack, what is wrong with that?
Well, I think, you know, if you know what a light smack is, probably nothing much, but that's not the point that's being made here. And first of all, I just want to challenge Dr. Lazalery. I understand, Dr. Lazalery, that you wrote an article, for example, when you were at Biola University, which used to be called the Biblical Institute of Los Angeles. And in that, as I understand, you advocated a balanced spiritual view of spanking. And one of the conditions, actually, for having that publication published was actually that you had to have a position that was consistent with an evangelical position. Now, I would suggest one of the things that I've done as Children's Commissioner is commissioned a review of all of the literature, internationally and nationally. This was published in 2004, and it included Dr. Lazalery's work, looked at also Gershoff's work, who's one of the most well-known experts in the world on this, and who's done a meta-analysis of all of the work.
Sorry,
and basically,
okay, I'm a bit confused. Specifically and explicitly, what is your criticism of Dr. Lazalery here?
That basically he's a climate change skeptic in child discipline. All of the research in here, when we looked at all of the studies, and this was work that was commissioned by the University of Otago, found that in fact the effects of spanking, smacking, hitting were largely negative. There was 1 or 2 exceptions that talked about short-term compliance.
Can you address that, Dr. Lazalery? Are you motivated by what we're going to simplistically call a Christian fundamentalism here?
Well, let me explain how this article came about. Someone submitted an article that really took the kind of position that's an anti-spanking position. I reviewed it. I recommended that it be accepted in the journal, but that there be discussants of it. So the article you're talking about...
Can you answer my question? Are you a fundamentalist Christian?
No.
Are you a Christian conservative?
I am a person of faith.
Yeah, okay.
If I were an atheist,
yeah, you would still
then I would still stand by every conclusion my research has shown.
Can I just say, the point that I'm trying to make is this: to present yourself as a world expert who's got scientific views on this is I think, misleading, and that's what I'm trying to say.
Wait a second, Cindy Kiro, one thing I'm confused about is if the science is all on your side, right. And if the only people who disagree with you are people you're trying to characterise as actually Christians in the fringe, why haven't you managed to take the public with you on this argument?
I think because I think there's a very simple answer to that, John, and that is it's taken organisations like Plunkett 10 years to educate their membership about why this matters. But now they understand the issue and they totally support it.
So
it takes a long time to understand what this means, and we've been pushed into a position of trying to explain and educate the public very quickly with a lot of misinformation going around.
And vilify your opponents, it seems like to me tonight.
Can I answer one thing?
I mean,
I'd like to
basically,
answer one
the
thing.
press release talked about a world expert. I've gone in 2004, and this is widely distributed. This has gone to all parent centres, for example.
Yeah.
And basically, all of the international research, with a couple of exceptions, and we can deal with that, actually support the view that physically punishing children is not the best way. Positive parenting is.
Okay. Where is the science that supports smacking?
Well, let me explain that there's only been one scientific consensus conference on corporal punishment. I was one of 7 experts they brought in 1996 to present on this. I am a member of the task force on corporal punishment by the American Psychological Association. My strongest ally is the person who says that authoritative parenting, a good balance of love and limits, is exactly what Ann Smith said was optimal in this report.
I totally support that.
And this is what she says. She says there is no scientific evidence that smacking produces harm of any kind. I could go on.
Yeah, although Andrew Grogan-Kaler would disagree, his study would disagree. Okay. Any way you guys can reach a consensus here? Well, I mean, generally, that, Cindy Kiro, is there any way you can live with a very light smacking, a very light spank as a last resort, or are you just saying let's draw a line in the sand against violence of any description, no matter how light?
Well, can I just say that I think that in a way, I mean, the US is one of the worst child abuse rates in the world, and
along with us,
there's a lot of work. We're towards the bottom, and they are further behind than us, which is a worry. We've got to do a lot of work. But what's happening about the bill? The bill, fundamentally, I think, is about giving the same legal status. It's about the criminal legal code.
Very quickly, is spanking, smacking of any description ever okay?
I think not.
Okay. Dr. Lazalier, you think that there are certain circumstances?
I think that to defend the kind of positive discipline that I think Dr. Kiro is for as well, parents need effective disciplinary enforcement.
Okay.
And it's milder ones are better, but some kids push the limits where non-abusive smacking is necessary.
Well, this is representative of the debate that is taking place everywhere in our political forum, radio, and that once again, the two sides are very divided. Dr. Cindy Kiro, Dr. Robert Lazalier, thanks.